Welcome guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Minkoi. Today we're back with another video. This time we're going back to Christmas. Christmas guys, it's Christmas! Okay? Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year and all that. Today we're going to be reacting to a video about the history of Christmas, which I know it was a pagan festival that was incorporated into the Christian church. But other than that, nothing. So this is a huge video, 54 minutes. I'm not doing it all of it. I'm gonna do it in parts, maybe 3 parts of 20 minutes. Who knows? But yeah, I hope you enjoy my reaction. If you do, leave a like, subscribe maybe, and let's go.
Christmas. Every major holiday has its own unique identity and spirit associated with it, but Christmas time is really something quite special. There is a reason that, out of the millions, nay billions of people who celebrate the holiday around the world, so many regard it as the most wonderful time of the year.
It is
the
the best.
fundamental origin of the holiday is known to many Christians and non-Christians alike. It's a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, the second most important event in Christian belief. However, what is not as often clear are the origins of many of the customs and traditions associated with Christmas. May I ask, for example, why did you put a tree in your living room and decorate it? And why did you hang giant socks on your fireplace?
Don't have a fireplace, so...
Likely because you are expecting a guest. A large man in a red suit from the North Pole will be coming your way the night before Christmas aboard a sleigh steered by flying reindeer.
Yep.
Once he lands on your roof, he'll be entering your house through your chimney to leave you gifts, as long as you and your family have been good throughout the year.
You know, this whole metaphor of, landing on the house, roof, chimney, all that, that only works if you have a house. I live in an apartment, so all that goes out the window, you know?
These things are so familiar to those of us who celebrate Christmas that we don't even bat an eye at them. But, when you put it like that, it does make you wonder. Where did all these things come from? How did they begin? Why did they begin? How did they change throughout history? And how do they vary today around the world? Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Fire of Learning. In this very special presentation, we'll be finding out as we explore the history of Christmas.
Yep.
And now, in the words of a particularly fitting ghost, rise and walk with me.
Christmas fest? Okay guys, I love Christmas. Okay, that's my favorite time of the year. I'm already happy, you know, I'm not skipping this. I'm not. This is...
Where do we begin with the history of Christmas? We might expect in a manger in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago. Okay. However, to truly understand the Christmas holiday, we must go back even further. This time of year was an important time for many cultures around the world, even prior to Christianity.
The equinox?
Of feasting, of celebration, of religious and cultural...
I like saying words that make me, seem smart. Equinox, oof.
Significant.
I have no idea what that means.
This is important because a few of these holidays would play a role in influencing our modern Christmas celebration. One example is a festival which was as frightening as it was jolly. In the cold, dark, and mysterious lands of the ancient Germanic peoples, such as Anglo-Saxon England, ancient Germania, and Scandinavia, we find a winter holiday known to us as Yule. Not much is known about Yule, and much of what is known is not known with certainty. The major reason for this is that these societies were not very literate, and thus much of what is known has come from oral traditions and mythology, or Christian writers describing the customs of their ancestors centuries after the pagan heyday. Yule is often misrepresented as a holiday lasting a single day. In fact, the Yule tide appears to have been a roughly 2-month time period. Within this period, it appears there were a few minor celebrations and one large one. Likewise, it is often believed that the major celebration took place on or around the winter solstice. But this important detail has been drawn into question by people like Andreas Nordberg. Rather, it seems that the main event centered around the second full moon of Yule after the new moon following the winter solstice.
Okay.
Many important things took place during the Yule celebration. As the community gathered to celebrate the main holiday, crop and animal sacrifices were made to the gods. Animals like horses, boars, and goats seem to have had special significance.
The good old pagan
Fires
days.
were lit, ale was drunk in abundance, and great feasts were eaten. Various other rituals dedicated to the gods, the ancestors, and the king were also undertaken.
That's a house.
Yule was a season to be both jolly and pious, but also cautious. It was viewed as a kind of liminal time in which the boundaries between worlds were broken. This could be a good thing in some circumstances, but oftentimes meant danger. It was believed, in Germanic paganism for example, that the wild hunt took place in this time. The wild hunt is a term used by scholars to refer to a kind of supernatural hunting party prominent in the mythology of many European cultures. In Scandinavia, it was also referred to as Odin's hunt, denoting the fact that it was often, though not always, led by Odin, the chief god of Norse mythology, who was himself sometimes referred to as the Yule Father. He could be encountered wrapped in a blue cloak, riding through the darkness on either Sleipnir, his grey 8-legged horse, or in a one-wheeled cart. Legend maintained that as the hunt passed, one would do well to avoid it completely. In fact, one ought not even look at it, for to do so is to invite a kind of curse. Those who were not careful were sometimes snatched up in the hunt and taken
Is it just me or does Odin look like a wizard? You know, with the hat and all that? The
back
beard?
to the spirit realm.
Looks
Or
like
they may
Gandalf.
have encountered a dangerous being which arose during the event, such as reanimated corpses called Draugr. Beliefs
Dude!
like these, of course, suggest a connection
I know all those terms. Yuletide, Yule, Draugr, just because I play video games, man.
between Yule and death. Zombies, death, blood. Perhaps Yule sounds a fair bit more like a snowy Halloween than
Yeah.
a cozy Christmas morning.
Basically.
However, you may have noticed certain similarities between Yule traditions and Christmas traditions. Indeed, there are connections. Not only that, but the term Yule has survived in English and other languages in connection to certain elements of Christmas. We'll come back to this topic later to look more closely at these connections, but for now, let us venture south to a mighty empire which was also celebrating a festival at roughly the same time.
Roman? Yeah. Yeah.
Around the Mediterranean, the Romans were celebrating a pagan festival called Saturnalia, which derived from the Greek festival of Chronia, which itself may have derived from far more ancient holidays. The holiday was, as the name suggests, dedicated to the god Saturn. In the early days of the Republic, it was a single-day celebration which followed the last harvest of the year, something which took place around the winter solstice in this region. However, eventually, the Saturnalia celebration was fixed to a specific date, December 17th, and later grew in length, becoming a full week of celebration by the time of the late Republic.
Nice.
Though the Romans were more literate than the ancient Germanic peoples, Saturnalia is also not fully understood. Furthermore, like Yule, exactly how it was celebrated naturally varied across different times and places. What is clear, however, is that Saturnalia seems to have resembled a modern Mardi Gras celebration much more than a modern Christmas celebration.
Okay.
Prior to the festival, the streets of the cities would begin to swell with visitors coming to join the celebration. As it commenced, public affairs such as work, education, many areas of government, etc., were halted for the duration of the festival. Though there were religious elements to this time, the most striking aspect of Saturnalia was its wild parties. Dancing, singing, feasting, games, and all manner of revelry were prominent night and day across the cities. Not only were people more tolerant than usual of debauched and hedonistic behavior, but these behaviors were, in fact, encouraged. There was a kind of intentional inversion of social norms in this
Doesn't
time.
sound too bad,
Drunkenness was the norm. Gambling with dice, usually illegal, was tolerated. Women and people with dwarfism participated in gladiatorial fights. Slaves were given a degree of freedom. This level of freedom is sometimes exaggerated, but in some cases, they were allowed to do things like speak on equal terms with their masters.
Jesus Christ!
To a limited point of disrespect, dine alongside them, and even be served dinner by them.
Whoa.
Famously, various communities would appoint their own Saturnalicius princeps, a kind of king of Saturnalia. These kings were often children and people of lower social background. According to tradition, their commands were to be obeyed by all participants, though these commands were generally fun and frivolous.
Because that could get really wrong. Obey all my commands, let's go kill everybody.
Giving appears to have been absolutely central to the holiday, though many of these gifts were simple or gag gifts, the latter being a particular favorite of the Emperor Augustus. As all this took place, cheers of "Yo Saturnalia" would ring out across the city. Not everyone would participate in the frivolity, however, and there were more than a few Scroogicuses who stayed indoors. Contrary to common misconception, it doesn't seem that the winter solstice itself was closely related to Saturnalia. But there is evidence that it did have religious significance to at least some Romans in the late Empire. In 274 AD, under the Emperor Aurelian, the Roman cult of the Sol Invictus,
I haven't forgotten the video of Aurelian, guys, don't worry,
the unconquerable sun, became a part of the official Roman religion. This cult focused on a kind of sun deity. Though the Sol Invictus is poorly understood, it appears that the Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, a festival dedicated to the unconquerable sun, was celebrated on December 25th. The related Roman mystery cult of Mithras may have also maintained that Mithras was also born on December 25th. Finally, it's worth mentioning the Calends of January, another Roman festival celebrated in this time. The Calends was the name the Romans used to refer to the first of each month. The Calends of January, the start of the consular year, featured feasting and celebration as well. So the question is, are Yule and these Roman traditions like Saturnalia ancient versions and predecessors of modern Christmas? It's complicated. On the one hand, they are clearly quite different and very much separate holidays. But on the other hand, there are also clearly certain similarities suggestive of influence, which must be understood to truly understand Christmas. It should be said that, when it comes to not just Christmas, but also holidays such as Easter, Halloween, and Valentine's Day, or at least the traditions involved in these holidays, there is not, historically speaking, a single origin point or ancestor for every aspect of the holiday. In other words, the things we do during Christmas time derive from more than just one or two sources. There have been many separate influences and many changes over the course of thousands of years. Yule and Saturnalia, for example, do seem to be influences. How much of an influence, though? Well, that's quite honestly an unanswered question. People, especially in the distant past, rarely kept precise records of these things. Historians therefore have to piece these things together like a puzzle, which can be complicated. It's not always easy to know whether or not something in history has influenced a holiday, or to determine how much precisely it has done so, and one must be careful in working it out. Just because certain traditions seem similar, or are practiced at the same time, does not necessarily mean they are related. Several East Asian and Native American societies, for example, had festivals around the same time. There's no relation to Christmas, it's just the winter solstice is a very natural time to place a holiday. Not necessarily because of the solstice itself, but because agricultural work is done for the year. People might have a sort of psychological need for a release from the hardships of the cold, etc. That was a bit of a tangent, but it's necessary to keep these things in mind. Because misinformation about holidays and their history is not only common, it quite honestly seems to be the norm. It's all a bit complicated and confusing, but fear not, my friends, for we have only just begun, and it becomes clearer as
That's
we
a
go.
nice dog.
As these holidays were taking place, there were important events taking place in the Levant that were about to change
Oh my
everything.
God, here comes Jesus. Jesus.
The story of the Nativity,
Yep.
Jesus' birth to the Virgin Mary in a stable in the town of Bethlehem, is absolutely central to the Christian religion and the Christmas holiday's development over the subsequent 2,000 years. The Christian religion would soon form, and over the next few centuries would grow in popularity.
That's a
Despite
nice
the importance
tavern,
of the
I guess.
story, early
The hell is that?
Christians do not appear to have placed as much emphasis on the Nativity. They, in fact, did not celebrate birthdays much in general. There was much more emphasis on Easter and its related holidays. Celebration of Christ's birth, however, would grow in importance when Christianity was adopted by the Roman Empire in the 4th century. But of the many details the Bible gives us regarding the birth of Jesus, it leaves out one very noteworthy one: the date. The Bible never claims that Jesus was born on December 25th.
Oh
And
my God.
indeed, Christian theologians argue that this story suggests it more likely took place during any of the other 3 seasons. So why did early Christians decide on December 25th? There are
What do you mean? What kind of explanation is that? Oh yeah, by the way, Jesus was born in any of the other 3 seasons. Can you be more vague? It's like saying, so Jesus, we don't really know when he was born, but he was born sometimes during the year. What the hell is that?
a number of theories, one of which relates to the pagan holidays we just discussed. The Roman Emperor Constantine became the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity in 312 AD. Christianity would be adopted as Rome's official religion under the emperor.
Didn't he convert like at his deathbed? He was about to die. He's like, you know what? Let's hope. You know, it's like he was playing the odds of, you know, was there really a heaven? You know, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna convert. I'm dying anyways. Nobody gives a fuck.
Emperor Theodosius I later that century. With its place firmly cemented at the heart of European civilization, over the next 1,000 years, Christianity would outcompete and overcome the pagan beliefs of Europe.
Yeah.
One of the methods that early Christians like Pope Gregory the Great used to spread Christianity was to allow pagan peoples to continue certain customs and traditions that they were used to, so long as they did not violate Christian belief. In their view, just
Smart.
as the
Assimilate
pagans
them.
could be baptized into Christianity, some of their traditions could have the paganism washed away from them as well. As we shall see, this is the main reason why it is likely that certain Christmas traditions with which we are familiar, in fact, date back hundreds, if not thousands of years before the birth of Christ.
Of course.
But is that why Christmas is on December 25th? To replace pagan festivals like Yule, which was held in winter, Saturnalia, which was held in mid-December, and the birth of the unconquerable sun, which was held on December 25th itself. It's tempting to think so, but while it's the popular answer, it is perhaps not the correct one. The problem is that there is no clear evidence that it was set on December 25th to replace pagan festivals, and there is evidence which suggests otherwise. For example, there was a belief in Judaism that all the prophets were either born or conceived and died on the same day. In Christianity, this included Jesus. Early Christian theologians suggested that he was conceived on March 25th, which was also believed to be the date of creation itself. If March 25th is the date of his conception, the Annunciation, then 9 months later would be December 25th.
Oh,
These
okay.
dates were almost certainly connected to symbolism. They fall near the spring equinox and winter solstice. Accordingly,
Isn't that just convenient?
Jesus' birth was likened to the return of the sun and the warmth and light it brought with it. As for the date of December 25th with regard to the Sol Invictus, it's been suggested by historians like Louis Duquesne that the Christians reserved this date first, and that, in fact, the pagans tried to challenge them by placing their holiday on that date afterwards. As for Yule, the date of December 25th was set before there were enthusiastic efforts to Christianize the Germanic world, so Yule appears to have nothing to do with the date. And as for Saturnalia, the date appears to have been chosen before Christianity took hold among Roman elites, in a time in which Christians heavily distanced themselves from the pagan Roman norm. Regardless of the reasoning, the date stuck, and with the holiday in place, it would set off to evolve into the holiday with which we are all familiar. But this would still take time, and the Christmases of old were still strikingly different from those with which we are familiar. The first Christmas celebration on record took place in Rome on December 25th, 336 AD, though not much is known about these early celebrations. After the Roman Empire fell and Europe entered the early Middle Ages, the holiday and the holiday season would develop further. Epiphany, held on January 6th, was more popular than Christmas itself in the early Middle Ages. Indeed, the Epiphany seems to have been more popular in the East from an earlier time as well. The Nativity was celebrated there on that date in conjunction. Today, in the West, the Feast of the Epiphany is mostly centered on Jesus' appearance to the three Magi, his first appearance to Gentiles. In the East, however, there is more focus on his baptism on this date.
Whoa.
The date of the Nativity to the date before Epiphany, December 25th to January 5th, is a 12-day period, which is where we get the 12 days of Christmas. The 12 days of Christmastide were more celebrated in the past than they are today, and generally involved 12 days of celebration and feasting. Christmas Day would in fact mark the beginning of celebration rather than the last day. It is also in early Middle Age Europe that we find the origins of Advent. In modern America, though supercenters seem to believe Christmas time begins in the middle of October, the Christmas season truly, unofficially...
You know, for me, it goes like this. October 1st, you start preparing for Halloween. You know, like Halloween's here, everything's fine. Halloween finishes 31st. You go into this November, whatever. Thanksgiving, whatever. It's Christmas, baby. It's Christmas. Who gives a fuck about Thanksgiving? Do you? I know I have a lot of Americans who listen to this. Do you? I'm not American, so I never really... Like in Canada, they celebrate Thanksgiving, but I don't. So I never really celebrated it. So I don't know. It's not. I don't care about Thanksgiving at all. Okay, for me it's Halloween, great holiday, and then it goes into Christmas. Thanksgiving is like an afterthought. It's like, oh, you know, turkey maybe. Oh no, okay, no. So, and then you go into Christmas. Christmas is the real one. Christmas is... It's the best, man. It's the best. Anyways, guys, I'm going to pause the video here because we're 20 minutes in. It's a 54-minute video. I hope I didn't, not too much of a cliffhanger. I was trying not to, stop it in the middle of an explanation. Yeah, tell me, guys, in the comments, which is your favorite holiday? For me, Christmas. No doubt. Christmas, number one. Halloween, number two. And then maybe Thanksgiving, which I don't celebrate, but I like the decorations. So that's the important ones. Everything else, Easter. Oh my God. So yeah, I hope you liked my video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and all that. I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.